Roman Dolidze and Nassourdine Imavov are fighting this weekend, but before we get to the main event, we are going to go through the entire card, and I will be giving my prediction for each fight. First up, we got Thomas Peterson and Jamal Pogues. I'm going to go with Thomas Peterson. Jamal Pogues is a decision heavyweight. You know what that means. He's not entertaining. He's not fun to watch. He's not going to knock people out. If you're in the heavyweight division and you can't knock people out, what are you doing? Thomas Peterson has 7 knockouts on his record, which is pretty impressive for a heavyweight. Usually heavyweights in the UFC, they either can knock you out or they're getting decisions. And Thomas Peterson on the Dana White Contender Series subbed a guy. And I think that's what is going to give him the advantage in this fight, is the advantage that he can finish the fight, right? Instead of going to the decision. So I'm going to go with Thomas Peterson. Next up, we got Landon Quinones and Markel Madero. Sorry if I butcher that name. I'm going to go with Markel. I don't know much about these guys, all right? I'm going to be honest. I don't know much about them. But what I saw from Markel, I think I'm going to favor him in this fight. Look, he's a knockout artist. And usually, you know, with my picks, I'm going to pick the guy who can finish the fight, right? Not a guy who's going to take it to a decision. In this case, yet again, I'm going to go with him. Next up, we got Jung Young Lee versus Blake Bilder, and I'm going to go with Jung Young Lee in this fight. Blake Bilder's an interesting fighter. He kind of is like a typical, not really going to do much, not really going to threaten anything. So that's already a problem, right? If you're looking at the stats, the stats might suggest otherwise. But Jung Young Lee is a finisher. Yet again, guys, what's the best way to pick fights? Go with the guy who's probably going to finish the other guy. And Jung Young Lee, although he went to a split decision in his last fight, although he doesn't knock out and submit every single person he fights, he's got a better chance to do it than Blake Bilder, right? Blake Bilder's got a decent jiu-jitsu game. But when it comes to the all-around stand-up game, I don't think he's that good. And I think he'll get exposed in this fight. And I think Jung Young Lee will win by knockout. Next up, we got Themba Gorimbo versus Pete Rodriguez. I'm going to go with Themba Gorimbo. He's got a cool story, right? The Rock bought him a house. Kobe Covington gave him money when he, didn't have much money. And I actually do like him as a fighter, right? Fighting in the 170 weight class with a 77-inch reach is pretty good, right? And he's not really going to be the guy who's going to go out there and really strike. He wants to take you down. And we have yet to see anything from Pete Rodriguez in the ground game, so maybe he could have amazing takedown defense and amazing ground game. But I'm going to go Themba. I think he'll get it done by decision. And you know what? No, he's going to win by submission. I think back-to-back submissions are going to happen. Or knockout, then submission, back-to-back finishes like that. Yeah, I just think Themba, he's the better fighter. I mean, Pete Rodriguez, we haven't really seen much. And from what we saw, yeah, he won by knockout, but Themba's been here. We know what he is, right? He's okay. And then this fight, where I don't really know much about the other guy, I'm going to go with the guy who is decently well-rounded. Next fight, we got Azat Maksum versus Charles Johnson. And I think Azat Maksum is going to go out there and submit him in the first round, right? Anytime you get a Kazakhstani fighter like this who is pretty good and is undefeated, you usually go with those guys. And I'll talk about that same theory that I have with another guy on this card. Look, he had a good fight his first time. Charles Johnson is not very good. Let's just say it how it is. He's not very good. At least Azat showed something, right? He had a tough fight. He had a tough fight in his first fight in the UFC and Tyson Nam, who's no longer in the UFC. But when you get a first UFC fight, right, you probably want to get a guy who's maybe not that skilled, and you want to test how good he is. No, they threw him kind of right in the fire. Nam's not that good, right? But he's experienced enough where he made it a split decision. I just think this time it's not going to be the same. I think he didn't get a rude awakening, but he got a sense of what the UFC is and how tough it really is. And I think he's going to channel that focus, and I think he's going to go out there and submit Charles Johnson in the first round. Then we got Molly McCann versus Diana Belbita. Yeah, just give me Molly McCann. Really, I mean, this is a rematch that no one really wanted to see. And it's on this card. We're going to have to watch it. Respect to both ladies, but I really could go the rest of my life without seeing this fight. So, yeah, I'm going to go Molly McCann. Yeah, Molly McCann by knockout. Next up, we got Gilbert Urbina versus Charles Raddick. I'm going to go Gilbert Urbina. Remember Gilbert Urbina? He was on Tough. He lost to Tresean Gore, and he lost to Brian Battle. Then he had a win in his next fight. And I'm going to go with Gilbert Urbina, right? When we watched him fight, at least earlier on when he was getting through the UFC, he was kind of, let's just say it how it was. He was getting his ass kicked. All right, he was getting his ass kicked. He looked good in his last fight. And in this fight, when he's a 6'3" compared to a 5'9" guy, I'm going to go with that, right? I always say reach is always the best advantage you can have in MMA. You control where the fight goes, unless you don't know how to use your reach. If you know how to use your reach, you can basically win any single fight where you have a significant reach advantage. And that's why I'm going to go with Gilbert Urbina. All right, we got Aliskov versus Mahmoud. I'm not going to attempt their last names. You guys can look that up for yourself. But I'm going to go with Aliskov here. He's an undefeated Russian. Really? Like, we don't really, when you get an undefeated Russian, you basically, every single time, you're like, yeah, he's probably going to win. That's just how it is, right? If you guys watch NFL at all, it's like Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. You don't bet against him, right? And you don't bet against an undefeated Russian. That's why I'm going to go with him, right? Maybe it's not the smartest play, right? Maybe I didn't put enough research into watching these guys. And according to what I've been seeing, Mahmoud isn't that bad. And Aliskov, is pretty good. So this is a good matchup. And I'm ready to see what both these guys have. Blind eye tells me Aliskov. I could be completely wrong. But I'm going to go with the undefeated Russian fighter. I mean, when have you ever went against an undefeated Russian fighter? Probably never, right? Because they're guaranteed to win almost every single time. Next up, we got Viviana Rujao versus Natalia Silva. Guys, Natalia Silva is one of the best WMMA prospects and WMMA fighters on the earth. She is really good. If you're maybe not a fan of WMMA and it's not really your thing, trust me when I say this, Natalia Silva is damn good, right? Damn good. She is really good. And I think she's going to go out there and knock out Viviana Rujao. Maybe decision, but I'm going to go Natalia Silva by knockout. Next up, we got Randy Brown versus Muslim Salikov. I'm going to go Muslim Salikov, right? A lot of people are going to pick Randy Brown in this matchup. Guys, he's 6'3" with a reach advantage, and he doesn't know how to use it. Guys, if you ever want to check out who is a fraud, basically that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do is check out that. But I'm going to go Muslim Salikov in this fight. I cannot believe the line right now is minus 235 Randy Brown. He's not that good of a fighter, guys. Just not. He really isn't. He's not going to finish the fight, and I think Muslim Salikov can take advantage of that and maybe win the last 2 rounds. And maybe that's not favorable for him in a fight like this where maybe he would like to get a finish. But there's something telling me that he is going to eke out a decision here, right? And the betting odds don't go with it. A lot of people aren't going to go with it, but I'm going to go with it because it's my pick. Next up, we got Renato Moicano versus Drew Dober. Guys, close fight. Initially, I said Moicano. And then I was thinking, I'm like, but he's been a year off. Drew Dober, he's always active. he's always a 500 level guy. Like, he can knock out anyone and get knocked out by anyone. So I was like, maybe in a fight like this, he has a chance. But Renato Moicano he's pretty good. Like, he's pretty good. Like, he's only ever lost to the elite guys. Like, and he's got some good wins on his resume. I mean, say what you want about Brad Riddell and Calvin Kattar, but those guys are decent fighters. I think, at least Calvin Kattar goes, I think he's better than Drew Dober. And Moicano has the submission game, right? Where Drew Dober can win this fight is knocking him out, obviously, right? We know Drew Dober has power, and Moicano has been knocked out before. But I think Moicano is just more skilled. I think that's all it is, right? Drew Dober is a good fighter. He's got good power. He knows how to impose his will at some points, right? He used to have a granite chin. But I think ultimately you can't bank on the one-dimensional punchers like Drew Dober, right? You kind of want to pick a guy who's more well-rounded. And Moicano is more well-rounded than Drew Dober, right? Moicano, yeah, he's got knocked out by Rafael Fiziev. He's got wins over Jeremy Stevens, Calvin Kattar, right? He got knocked out. The guys who he is losing to are elite fighters all time, like great fighters all time, like Jose Aldo, RDA, right? So he's got good names on his resume. Drew Dober is an interesting case of you never know. He actually might just go out there and knock out Moicano, right? But it was kind of the Frivola fight that kind of put him in. It was like, okay, most of these times he can outlast the other guy and knock him out. But now with his chin deteriorating, I don't know if he can stand to get knocked down just to knock the other guy out, right? Maybe it's just one of those that can put him out. And I don't really think Drew Dober's skills are that good, right? I don't really think they're that good. But, right, compared to Moicano is a lot more well-rounded. And in a fight like this, in a co-main event, in the Apex, I'm going to go Moicano on this fight. Even though he's had a year layoff, I think I trust Moicano more. All right, main event time. Roman Dolidze versus Nassourdine Imavov. Guys, Roman Dolidze is not that good. He's just not that good. Guys, if you lose to Marvin Vettori, rethink your life. Marvin Vettori sucks. He is not that good of a fighter. All right, maybe I'm a little too harsh on Marvin Vettori there, but no, I don't think Dolidze is that good. I don't think he is, right? Next week's main event, Jack Hermansson was taking it to Roman Dolidze. Marvin Vettori and Jack Hermansson were taking it to Roman Dolidze. Now, obviously, he beat Jack Hermansson. But Nassourdine Imavov, right, say what you want about his fight against Sean Strickland. He went 5 rounds with Sean Strickland, who was the former champ, who literally just fought for the belt. And when you watch that fight, yeah, his cardio may be in question. Maybe his striking defense might be in question. But he went all 5. And he, for the most part in the early rounds, he was exchanging and landing well on Sean Strickland, who's known to be one of the best defensive boxers in MMA. Dolidze, he's kind of a 1 or 2 trick pony. It's like either he's going to pull off some miracle submission or knock a guy out. Other than that, what does he do? He gets outboxed by Marvin Vettori, out-kickboxed by Marvin Vettori? Man, I could out-kickbox him. Man, that's just not a good look. It's not a good look if you are getting out-kickboxed by Marvin Vettori. And I think Nassourdine Imavov is one of the most underrated fighters in the UFC. People question the cardio, and yes, that's a huge problem. Striking defense could be a problem in future fights. But I think he's got a really good chin. I think his combinations are amazing. He is so light on his feet. He is so fast. I think in a fight like this, where you got a guy who's going to try to come finish you in Roman Dolidze, and a guy who doesn't really have the best cardio, we might be seeing a 2-round fight here, 3-round fight. And I know Nassourdine Imavov's power is not amazing, right? But I think he'll just finish the fight. Any way it goes, I think he'll finish the fight. For a majority of the fight, I think he'll jab him up, be at range, hit him with, a 1-2 combo, staying out of distance of Roman's power, right? Getting out of the way. And I think that'll benefit him. And as the fight progresses, as Roman's getting his face beat in with all the jabs and he, maybe goes to the body, eventually he'll find a shot to, stun him a little bit and then ground and pound, finish him. I think that's how I see the fight going. It could go to decision, right? Or it could just go completely wrong and Roman Dolidze just ruins my life. But I have faith in Nassourdine Imavov getting this one done by finish. Contrary to belief, by finish. I think it would be a ground and pound 4th round TKO for Nassourdine Imavov. Guys, if you like this video, please like and subscribe. It would mean the world to me. And also comment down below some ideas that I should do. I've got a couple ideas that are going to be coming out here in the next few days, in the coming weeks, I think you guys would really enjoy. And always,